Hey everybody, I hope everybody is having a nice Sunday. I wanted to go ahead and record this video for you and share with you some data that I have been receiving via Conscious Channel. Those of you that are familiar with that, you already know what I'm talking about. Those of you that are not familiar with it, basically, I see all human beings as sizable antennae. They are receptive to energies on all levels, and all we really have to do is consciously tap into those, and things happen. And this is something that I've done for a very long time. Some people do it sporadically. Some people, have to get themselves into a mode, into a zone. And for me, it's not something that I do all the time. The past 3 days has been very intense in terms of incoming energy and of data. And so I really just decided to get into that mode, into that zone, and swim around in there a little bit and see what I can fish out. So yes, you can make note of all of my my body sigils here. All of these were done on purpose with the intent to channel energy, channel information for the highest good of all of humanity. I think it's very important that people, if they feel that they need to, set intent and set forth what it is that they're willing, what it is that they're willing to do, what kind of energy they would like to connect with, and sort of set up that perimeter for yourself, and don't allow anything nasty or negative or false to leak into your vessel. And that's where I'm at. So I wrote some things down, and I think I'm just going to read them out loud. So this is going to be in regards to the Great Awakening, to Project Looking Glass, to CERN. CERN plays a role in this as well. CERN is a very important technological tool that is being utilized in this war. I happen to feel that CERN is just a public, it's sort of, they told us, they showed us, okay, this is what we've got. There are plenty of things that they have that we don't see, but CERN is not one of ours, so to speak. When I say ours, I mean the resistance, the alliance, the good guys. It's not one of ours. That being said, I happen to believe that Donald Trump himself is a human counterpart / effigy to represent a type of technology, a benevolent technology, that is operating outside of the constructs of 3D. So outside of the construct of time, that would definitively be 5D. Because 4D is defined as the time construct, that which oversees the 3D world. So one step above that is going to be 5D. And we have all heard Trump make constant reference to 5D chess. So that is yet another suggestion or implication that what we are dealing with here is a war or a battle, so to speak, that is being played out on the earth realm, utilizing high ritual. Both sides use ritual. Both sides use magic. There is good magic and there is bad magic. The existence of this knowledge is not good or evil, it just exists. Human beings have always been the tools. Human beings have always been the variable point at which a thing becomes good or bad, or light or dark. Those concepts are manifested within the human population, within human society and civilization, as bad behavior, good behavior, wickedness, good deeds, that sort of thing. These are spiritual principles that take on a very physical form, a 3D form, but these are far higher constructs. I happen to believe that President Trump is, I want to start calling him Project 45, because I believe that him and his entire administration, but him specifically, his physical body, his physical vessel, I believe him to be a human effigy to represent this technology that is fully operational outside of the construct of time. So truly a machine that is operating in 5D. It is not subject to the rules of 3D physics, how we understand it. I shouldn't say 3D physics, 3D laws rather. Time is not linear in 5D. At all. Everything, there's no beginning, no end. It's all happening right now. So I'd like to continue here. So 4D, 4D is the concept of time. It is the elevated construct that holds 3D into its state. It oversees. We've often heard Trump speak to something called 5D chess. It all just makes perfect sense to me as a direct nod at the higher technologies, these machines. Both sides, the warring factions they have both developed these kinds of machines because all sides of this have human counterparts, or hybrid counterparts rather, that are enacting and sort of playing out through their respective roles in society. It doesn't matter where in the spectrum they are, all spiritual powers will manifest themselves on the planet, work through human beings, and put them in their respective roles. So really, this is all a show. This really is all a chessboard here. And we are confined by rules. We are confined and subject to the cyclic nature of the human race, of the sun and the stars. We are bound here for a time, right here in 3D. Now, a lot of people wonder, well, what is on the other side of 2020? Okay, what is, just the Great Awakening suggests that now we are going to ascend or graduate to the next level. Well, to be completely honest with you folks, I don't know exactly what happens. I don't know. I have visualizations, I imagine, and I have what I would like to call a reasonable guess about what could be expected to happen on the other side of this 2020 portal. But the truth is I don't know, and I don't I don't know that we are supposed to fully understand what happens. I think I personally would just like to be of service and to be helpful in this process by sharing with you guys what I think is happening here. And specifically with Donald Trump, and just this age and how polarizing, truly polarizing, I think it's an important word to use here, how polarizing of a figure that he actually is. And in that, I propose that Donald Trump is actually extremely neutral to his core. I feel that he is a neutral energy, a neutral soul, which has made him an ideal candidate to hold the position of physical counterpart of this off-world technology. And if we only look at something called TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome, this is an actual side effect of the project, of what I'm going to call Project 45. People are all subject to this project right now, to the Trump administration, the shock waves that this change, this shift in the timeline, as you could call it, because I do wholeheartedly believe that Project Looking Glass and the sort of the successful missions, the successful carrying out, if you will, of decisions on a high level, I think that those did result in Donald Trump getting elected. There's a beautiful thunderstorm going on right now, and I'm very thankful for it. It's been a really great day. So I do feel that the 2016 election, we could consider his win a side effect, a sort of, it was a victory, okay? It was a victory because what we did in that moment was we avoided a we would have inherited a very difficult timeline. So this is a difficult timeline. There's no doubts about it. This timeline is as difficult to the individual as they, from their point of perspective. So that's really what I'm trying to get into here, is that Project 45, the administration, the energy, the linguistics, his physicality, everything about him is, if you pay attention, which I do, I have noticed that he does embody this kind of he has feminine and masculine qualities to him. So it's almost like he's this master of liminal spaces. I see him as being incredibly, incredibly neutral. So a lot of people see him as all light, and a lot of people see him as evil, wicked. I see a man that has both. As myself, I am certainly not all light, and I'm certainly not all dark. I know right from wrong, and I navigate life on the side of right as often as humanly possible. And I feel that Donald Trump is pretty much he has clearly been the most ideal catalyst point. And I use the term catalyst because all of these projects, especially these massive, psychological operations, which we have talked about before. Psychological operations are not necessarily good things or bad things. It depends what they are. All things are psychological operations. Humanity is a psychological operation. This is not, by definition, a negative thing. Humans are pack animals. They are, yes, they're powerful, but, and there's no buts about it. Human beings are incredibly powerful. We are the most powerful. But we have to understand that we're dealing with for lack of a better term, literally the definition of a retarded population. Retarded, they've been slowed down, progress has been hindered. Truly the definition, everybody's retarded. So, and I don't mean that to be like, I am not trying to be offensive by using that term. Literally, there has been a massive slowing down that has taken place by design. It was yet another tactic used by a negative faction to hinder the power, the decision-making power of individual human beings, which is what this is all coming down to. Now, when I talk about seeing these machines and getting these downloads, a lot of them come in the form of dreams. Extremely vivid, emotional, sensual. When I say sensual, I don't mean sexual. I mean sensual. I can smell, I can touch, I can feel, I can hear. It's as if I'm truly there. And I have these potent experiences, and I know when I open my eyes that what I have just been given was something I need to make note of. I need to document this, write it down. I mean, you guys should just see my stacks of notebooks everywhere. Years and years of trance-like visions and this and that, and it's all pretty funny. I gotta laugh about it. But this particular technology does call into focus something called a man named Archimedes. Now, I didn't know who Archimedes was until this dream. I'd never heard of him. I wasn't familiar with any of his theories or principles. And for the record, math is my weakest point of all. So when I understood that this man was a mathematician and that I was being asked to research math, I was pretty bummed out, but I also realized that it's part of it. There's no avoiding the fact that we live in a mathematical, universe, and math is the language that makes up the fabric of things. It is a means to understand our reality here. So I said, okay. So I'll take a look at the math, all right? And what I found out was that when talking about 5D math, five-dimensional mathematics, which there's really a thing, there's a math to explain the concept of dimensions. So we go from 2D to 3D to 4D to 5D, 6, 7, 8, and onwards and upwards. It is a formula. What I found is that they use a term called the power of perspective. And essentially what that is that the light data that streams through a sphere is different depending on which vantage point you're at. So that is an incredibly rough definition of it. I'm sure somebody out there can give me a better definition of it, but the way that I understood it, it really rung a bunch of bells for me. Because in these visions, the machine that I see, it is a cube, okay? It is essentially a cube. Now, to be very, very clear, I want to explain. The machine that I'm about to explain to you, to describe to you as best I can, I feel that this technology is quantumly and intrinsically linked to Donald Trump and to his administration and to the Great Awakening and to QAnon. And the way that it was brought to me was in the form of a cube, and within this cube was a sphere. And this sphere, and it was filled with water, not the sphere, I don't know what the sphere is actually composed of. It's a mirror, okay? We've all heard QAnon refer to the mirror. They say, think mirror, think mirror. So I said, oh my gosh, yeah, totally, think mirror. The sphere is submerged into a cube of water. And a cube has 6 sides, 6 vantage points. And depending on which vantage point you are looking at from this cube, which side of the cube that you are on, you are going to reflect something is going to be reflected back to you, because everybody is looking at the sphere, the same sphere, from different vantage points. I propose that Donald Trump and the Great Awakening, but mostly Donald Trump because of who he is, what he represents, the people behind him, the ideology, the bloodlines, all of it, I believe that Donald Trump is the sphere inside the cube. And depending on which vantage point you take, that sphere, that is Donald Trump. Now remember, Donald Trump is the human effigy, the human physical 3D counterpart that is representing the hyperdimensional sphere that I am referring to inside this hyperdimensional cube that I'm referring to, the cube being the challenge. Which side of the cube, which vantage point that you are bearing witness to this sphere is the variable. Where do you find yourself? On which side of the cube, or which side are you on? And so the sphere itself, Trump is who he is, but people truly, genuinely perceive him completely different based on what side of the cube that they're on, okay? That's the power of perspective. And that is why I believe that this technology, why is this happening? Why? Because the portal that is 2020, the cube, okay? Because if you look at Egyptian hieroglyphs of what we now know as the letter Q, the 17th letter in the alphabet that we use, in ancient Egypt, the Q is literally depicted as the eye of a needle, okay? The eye of a needle, just like this. And we move through it. That's what Q is. This is humanity's collective consciousness being towed through the eye of a needle. And depending on where you are looking at this catalyst, that is Trump, that is the shift, the Great Awakening, depending on which vantage point you've taken, that is the reality that you experience. And there's so much more to it. Obviously, I tend to think that there's something very, very significant about the human eye and the lens of a camera and what's going on between the two and the implication that that has on actually creating a reality, like literally creating a sort of a hyperdimensional space just through the eye and the lens. So I know that was a whole bunch of stuff. A couple more notes I wanted to say. The fact that the cube sounds a lot like Q, I think, is no accident. Project 45, it just feels very appropriate to me because, you know, he is a piece on the chessboard, and he has managed to change everything just by being exactly who he is. And look at it's almost as if this technology was introduced to show the people that that their reality is a direct result of their individual soul's path. Look at the people that hate Trump. And, you guys know I'm pro-Trump. I think he's great. I love him. Seriously love him. President Trump, if you're watching this, I'm just so grateful. I really am. Thank you. Look at the people that hate him. Look at the people that are terrified of him. Where are they at with things? This is, that's why I feel like he is the embodiment of a kind of technology that is operating outside of this and does, what happens on the other side of that split, that move through the eye of the needle. I don't really know. I think based off of, historically what human beings do when they're under pressure, economic pressure, stress, people come together. I have a lot of faith in humans. I have a lot of faith in strong humans. Everybody else that is manifesting all this fear, they're fueling the fear and they're mapping out worst case scenarios and giving energy to it. It really is as simple as your vantage point, where you are looking at this mirror. I believe that Trump is a mirror. Donald Trump is a mirror. In tarot, the major arcana, we also call them Trump cards. There is absolutely no accident that Donald Trump's last name is Trump, because the Trumps being the major arcana, these are the massive omnipotent forces of nature. These are karmic forces that cannot be stopped. And so I feel very strongly that, and in the Bible, I'm not a religious person at all, but, even the Bible speaks to these trumpets, the sounding of the trumpets. And it is a cue. It's literally a cue. Oh, I didn't even realize that. These holy trumpets were to sound. This alarm was to sound, and it was going to signify the Great Awakening. It was going to signify the end times, but I don't feel that this is the end at all. I think this is somebody's end, but it is just the beginning of something else beautiful, and we're right on cue. We are truly right on cue. The sound, the tone, the words, the action, the spirit of human beings acting together, working together. We're all going to find ourselves, I'm very confident we're all going to find ourselves at a very favorable vantage point where we have seized the high ground. I truly do believe that. And so, we're going to experience something wonderful, because when we look at the mirror, if we've done the work, we're okay with what is being reflected back to us. But for those people that look at the mirror of Project 45 and they see their apocalypse, that is what they will experience. And so Project Looking Glass, a lot of things won't make sense until they make sense. A lot of things aren't going to align. The puzzle pieces won't come together until they come together. And I feel that there is new meaning personally for every time that Q has mentioned Think Mirror. It all makes sense to me. I think that is a direct nod to a technological piece of, it's a piece of high technology that behaves as a kind of collective mirror for human consciousness. It mirrors human consciousness back at you, and in doing so, because human consciousness is a tangible, measurable means of creative energy, we're literally batteries. It would make perfect sense that the cabal would be heavily invested in tricking people into looking into this mirror that is inevitable, because this is the times that we live in, the time's up sort of thing, 2020. Look into the mirror and see your worst possible scenario. That is what the cabal is trying to trick people into manifesting for themselves, because they can't create and they cannot change anything at this point. All they can do is manipulate, incite all kinds of horrible feelings within people. So I think that that's enough for right now. I would love to come back to this. I hope that this was informative. I hope that this was helpful. And it's going to be a great week. I hope everybody enjoys themselves. Take care. Where we go one, we go all.